Hello students, welcome to the channel called as Simple Concepts by DJ. Today we are going to discuss about an important application of Kirchhoff's voltage law or KVL. So that application is called as Wheatstone's bridge, right? So we are going to derive the expression that is given in the Wheatstone's bridge. Okay, so let's start with the derivation. Right. So first I'll draw the circuit diagram. You just observe the circuit diagram. Then after that we will start deriving the statements, and finally we arrive at a condition, okay, of the condition of the Wheatstone's bridge. Right. So let's get into the drawing the circuit diagram. Right. Here in this figure, you have four resistance that has been connected in a definite fashion, right? So, first thing is that I am going to mark the points A, this one is B, this one is C, this one is D, right? Now, I am going to name the resistors or mark the resistors with an alphabets, with respect to alphabets. So let us assume that the resistor that is being placed in the branch AB, BP. Similarly, the resistor that is being placed in the branch BC, BQ. And let us assume that the resistor that has been placed in the branch AD, BR. Now let us assume that the resistor that has been placed in the branch CD, BS. Now you have named the resistors that has been connected in individual branches, right? So now again let us connect a galvanometer. I am going to connect a galvanometer such that the end of the galvanometer, the end terminals of the galvanometer is connected with the junctions B and D. Okay, I am connecting a galvanometer of resistance G ohms. The resistance value of this galvanometer is G ohms. Let us assume it. Okay, I am connecting it between the junctions B and D, right? Again, I am connecting the points A and C with the help of a battery. Let us assume this point as E. I am connecting C and A and C junctions with the battery terminals. This is the positive terminal and this one is the negative terminal of the battery, right? So this is how the setup looks like. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now, after drawing the diagram, that is step 1. Now we need to mark the corners. I have marked the corners. Again, I have named the values of the resistors. Then I have named the resistors as P, Q, R, and S. And I have connected the galvanometer over here. And now we need to know what are these. Okay, these things. Okay, these are all called as the resistor arms. Okay, these are called as the resistor arms because these are called resistor arms because they have a resistance, because they have a resistor, they are carrying a resistor. So AB BC, CD and AD are called as resistor arms. Okay, so what will be from A to C? This portion is called as, that is from A to C, the wire which connects A to C. It is named as battery arm. It is called as battery arm because it is having a battery. This arm is having a battery, so we call it as a battery arm. Similarly, these arms are having a resistors, they are having resistors connected, okay, connected in their lines, so we are calling it as resistor arm. So we have 4 resistor arms, AB, BC, CD and AD, and we have one battery arm, that is AEC, right? So this is what the setup is all about. Then next, coming to the next step, what we are supposed to do, we need to find the direction of the current. We need to mark the direction of the current. We need to name the current and mark the direction of the current. So like what we need to do is, how will the current flow? The current usually flows from the positive terminal of the battery, it rotates over here and it comes to the negative terminal of the battery. This is how the current will be activated in the circuit. So now when the battery is connected, now what will happen? The battery will be supplying a current I. The battery supplies a current I, and this current goes here at this junction A, and it will divide among itself. The current I will be divided as current I1, that is flowing along the branch AB through the resistor P, and another current I2, okay, we have another current I2 that is flowing through the branch AD through this resistor R, right? So I1 and I2. Now this current I1 flows through the resistor P and it reaches the junction B, and at this B what will happen? It will again divide into 2 currents. So let us assume the current that is passing through the branch BC as I3. I3 is a current which passes through the branch BC through a resistor Q, that is I3 current, and another current flows through a galvanometer. Another current flows through a galvanometer of resistance G ohms. Let us assume the resistance value of this galvanometer be G. Okay, the unit of resistance is ohms, so I am putting it as G ohms. Okay, now what will happen? A current will flow from the branch BD through a galvanometer, and I name the current as IG. I name this current as IG, right? So what is IG? IG is nothing but the galvanometer current that is flowing through this galvanometer, of G ohms that has been connected in the branch BD, right? This is what the construction is all about, right? Now what happens when the current I3 reaches this junction point C? When the current I3 reaches this junction point C, what will happen? The current will stop at this place. Okay, will stop at this place. Now this I2 current will be flowing through the branch AD. Now again this is a junction point. So at this junction point, what will happen? Another current called as I3. Another current I3 flows through the branch DC through the resistor S. Similarly, okay, sorry, we can assume it as I4 because we have already named the current here as I3. So when this I2 current flows through the branch AD through the resistor R, okay, it reaches the point D. D is a junction. At this junction what will happen? Again it will divide. divide into another current which will be flowing through DC, through the branch DC, through the resistor S, and I am naming that current as I4. You understand? So now here I3 current flows and it stops here. Similarly, I4 current will be traveling through the branch DC and it will stop here. Again, they will combine to form a resultant current called I, and this I current will reach the negative terminal of this battery. You understand? This is how the circuit is being drawn. The resistors are being attached, the galvanometer is being fixed over here, the battery is being fixed, and the current is activated inside the circuit, and you will be determining the direction as well as the value of the current by naming the currents. Okay, now what you have to do is you need to get into the derivation part, right? So now this is all about the Wheatstone bridge. This is Wheatstone bridge, right? Now let's get into the derivation part. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to apply Kirchhoff's current law at this junction B, right? So I'll rub this one. I'll rub this heading. Okay, I'm going to rub this heading. Okay, so now what am I going to do is I'm going to apply KCL, that is Kirchhoff's current law, at junction B. I'm going to apply Kirchhoff's current law at junction B, right? So what will happen is, at B, what will happen? The current that is entering into the junction is considered to be positive, and the current that is moving out of the junction is considered as negative. So let's derive or just frame an expression based on this statement, right? So the current that is getting into the junction, that is I1 will be positive, and what are the two currents that is moving out of this junction? That is, one is IG and other one is I3. So since they are moving out of the junction, I am assigning a negative sign to both the currents, minus IG and minus I3, which will be equal to 0, right? Now what will happen? I1 is nothing but IG plus I3. I am bringing both the quantities to the right hand side. Okay, so I am going to name this as equation number 1. Now again I am going to apply KCL at junction D. Now I am going to apply KCL at junction D. So now what will be the result? If I am applying KCL at junction D, the current that is entering into the junction will be considered as positive, and the current which is leaving out of the junction is considered to be negative. So what are the currents that is entering into this junction? You have I2 current and the galvanometer current that is entering into the junction D. So I am adding a plus sign. So I2 plus IG is equal to the current which is moving out of the junction is called as negative. Okay, it will be negative. So I4 is the current which is moving out of this junction. So I will automatically I'll assign a negative sign and I put I4 over here, and finally I will equate it to 0. Now what I'm going to do is I2 plus IG will be I4. I am taking the I4 quantity to the right hand side, so negative sign will automatically become positive. So I am marking this equation as equation number 2. So I2 plus IG is equal to I4, right? So I got this one. I have applied KCL at both the junctions. It's time for me to apply Kirchhoff's voltage law, KVL, in this closed circuit ABDA. I am assuming I'm considering ABDA as a closed loop. I am fixing the direction of the direction of my travel in the clockwise direction, and I am going to analyze the voltage drops in this closed network. So now applying KVL, I am going to apply KVL at KVL for the loop is ABDA, A, B, D and A, right? So I am applying Kirchhoff's voltage law. So what will be the result now? My direction of travel is in the clockwise direction. So since my direction of travel is in the clockwise direction, I encounter a current that is moving along with me. Okay, it is moving along with my direction. So I automatically introduce a negative sign over here and I multiply the value of the current and the resistance. So that is nothing but I1 into P. I1 into P minus I1 into P. Again I am coming down. I am moving in the clockwise direction. While moving in the clockwise direction, I see a current IG that is also moving along with me. So what I do is I automatically assign a negative sign and I multiply the current value along with the resistance of this galvanometer. The resistance of the galvanometer is G ohms. So Ig into G, right? Then again what I'm going to do, I keep on traveling in the clockwise direction. While moving in the clockwise direction, I happen to encounter a current I2 which is moving in the opposite direction to the direction of my travel. So when I happen to encounter a current which is moving in the opposite direction, what I do is I automatically assign a positive sign over here and I multiply the value of current along with the value of the resistance. So it will be plus I2 into R. It will be I2 into R. So it will be plus I2 into R. Okay, so that will be equal to, since this is Kirchhoff's voltage law, I am equating it to 0. Now what am I going to do is I need to change the signs. So while changing the signs, what will happen? I1 into P plus Ig into G minus I2 into R will be equal to 0. I1 into P plus Ig into G minus I2 into R equal to 0. So what am I going to do? I am going to mark this equation as equation number 3. This is equation number 3. Now, this is what happens, right? So, I have applied KVL to this closed network ABDA and I have framed an equation, that is equation number 3, right? Now, what am I going to do? Again, I am going to consider this entire closed loop. I am going to consider A, B, C, D, A, right? Now what am I going to do is KVL. I am going to apply KVL for the loop A, B, C, D, A. A, B, C, D, A. I am applying for this entire loop A, B, C, D, A. While considering this entire loop, this branch BD will be neglected. I am neglecting this branch where the galvanometer has been connected and I am considering only this closed network. Okay, so what will happen now? Again, my direction of travel will be in the clockwise direction. I keep on rotating in the clockwise direction. So while rotating in the clockwise direction, I happen to encounter a current that is moving along with me, passing through the resistor P. So what will happen? I automatically introduce a negative sign minus I1 into P. Again, I happen to move in the clockwise direction. I encounter another current I3 that is moving along with me. So what I do is that I introduce a negative sign automatically and I multiply the value of the current along with the value of the resistance. So that will be minus I3 into Q. That will be minus I3 into Q. While moving in the clockwise direction, I happen to encounter a current that is moving in the opposite direction to the direction of my travel. So what I do is I introduce a positive sign over here and I multiply the value of current along with the value of resistance. That will be I4 into S. I4 into S. Again, while moving in the clockwise direction, I happen to encounter a current that is moving in the opposite direction. So what I do, I multiply the value of the current along with the resistance, so that I'll be getting a voltage drop in this branch. Okay, so that will be, so since it is moving in the opposite direction, I automatically introduce a positive sign and I multiply the value of current along with the resistance, I2 into R. I2 into R, I2 into R, and I equate it to 0, and I equate this to 0. You got it? And I equated it to 0. So now what am I going to do? I am going to change the signs. So it will be I1 into P plus I3 into Q minus I4 into S minus I2 into R will be equal to 0. Now I am assigning this as equation number 4. So I1P plus I3Q minus I4 into S minus I2 into R equal to 0. I am going to name it as equation number 4. So I got first equation, I got second equation, I got third equation, and I got fourth equation. So what now we have to do, important thing what we have to do is, let's see, analyze the circuit. Right now we have assumed that a current Ig flows through the galvanometer. So what will happen if the current does not flow inside the galvanometer? So if the current does not flow in the galvanometer, now the value of Ig will be 0. So the value of Ig will be 0. Now considering that case, what we have to do is, we need to put Ig equal to 0. I am assuming that Ig is 0. Ig is 0 because there is no current, there is no flow of current through the galvanometer, right? So Ig equal to 0. So what I am going to do with this expression, I am going to substitute in the equation number 1. So if I substitute in equation 1, if I substitute, it will be I1 equal to I3, right? Because Ig will be 0, so I1 is equal to I3, right? I1 is equal to I3. Again, in equation 2, what will happen? If I put Ig equal to 0, I2 will be equal to I4. I2 is equal to I4. Okay, so this will be in equation number, from equation number 2. So I1 is equal to I3, I'll name it as equation number 5. And similarly I2 is equal to I4, I name it as equation number 6. Now I am going to put Ig equal to 0 in equation 3. So what it will be? It will be I1 into P, this Ig will be totally 0 because no current that is flowing through the galvanometer, minus I2R is equal to I1P minus I2R. Minus I2 of R will be equal to 0. I1P minus I2R equal to 0 will be equation number 7. I hope you can understand what I am trying to say. Right? This is how it works. Now, again, here there is no Ig, so you need not put anything over here. Right? So now what we are supposed to do is, we need to see in this equation number 4, we need to consider this equation number 4, and we need to replace certain quantities with the quantities which we have obtained over here. So I am considering equation number 4. Equation number 4 is, that is from equation 4, okay, I get I1P, I am recording the same value over here, I1P plus I3 into Q. Instead of putting I3 here, I can substitute this value. I3 we have already obtained. I3 is equal to I1. I1 is equal to I3 in equation 5. So instead of I3, I am substituting it with I1. So minus I1, sorry, plus I1 into Q. Right. Again, I am putting minus here. I4. I have already obtained the value of I4 as I2. So what I am going to do is minus I2 into S. I2 into S. Then minus I2R will be same. Minus I2 into R will be same. That will be equated to, I am going to equate the entire quantities to 0. That's it. I1P plus I1Q minus I2S minus I2R equal to 0. Right. So I am bringing all the terms, okay, all the current terms as I1 and I2. Instead of expressing it in I3 and I4, I am bringing it in order to maintain consistency, I am bringing all the values into I1 and I2. So what am I going to do here? I am going to make these two quantities to move on the right hand side. So naturally what will happen, the negative signs that has been associated with these quantities will be converted into a positive quantity. So what I am doing is I1P plus I1Q is equal to I2S plus I2 into R plus I2 into R. Okay, this equation I am naming it as equation number 8, and this equation I am naming at equation number 9. Right, this is what I am doing. Now I am going to rub this one. Okay, since we don't have space, I am going to erase this portion. So now what will happen? I have obtained equation number 9. So now I am going to divide equation 9 by equation 7. So how it will work? See. So I am taking this one. It will be equation 9 divided by equation 7. So it will be I1 of P plus Q is equal to I2 of R plus S. This is nothing but equation number 9. I am removing the constant quantity outside and I am summing the values. Okay, this equation I am writing it in a more simplified version. So I1 will be P plus Q, that will be equal to I2 into R plus S. This will be divided by this equation 7. So 7 will be, what I am going to put is I1 into P. Okay, I can take I2 into R to the other side. So it will be I1P is equal to I2 into R. Right, I1P is equal to I2 into R. So I am putting it as divided by I2 into R. You got it? See, this I1P equation 7, I can also write it as I2 into R. I1P is equal to I2R because I am moving this negative quantity to the right hand side. So it will be positive. So I can also write the equation 7 like this, and I am equating both the equations 9 and 7. Okay, this way I am doing it. So this is how the equation gets into picture. Now again what will happen? I1 gets cancelled, I2 will get cancelled. So the resultant value will be P plus Q divided by P is equal to R plus S divided by R. You got it? This is how it works. So this is the final expression we are getting now. Now what I am going to do is, again I am going to divide by P. I am going to divide P with the individual terms. So what will happen? P by P is 1 plus Q by P is equal to r by r is 1 plus s by r. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these terms towards the left hand side. So what will happen? 1 plus q by p minus 1 minus of s by r will be equal to 0. So again, in this what will happen? 1 plus 1 minus 1 will get cancelled. So the resultant value will be q by p is minus s by r is equal to 0. Q by p minus s by r equal to 0. Now what I am going to do is I am going to move this quantity towards the right hand side. So it will be q by p equal to s by r. So q by p is equal to s by r. So what I am going to do is I can also interchange the terms on both the sides, provided I do it on either side. Okay, if I interchange the terms such that the bottom term should come to the upper side and the upper side should come to the bottom side, either side I should make, not only on one single side. So what I am going to do is q by p, instead of putting q by p, I will put it as p by q, which is equal to, instead of putting s by r, I am putting it as r by s. P by q is equal to r by s. So what is p? This. What is q? This. R is this, s is this. So p by q is nothing but p by q is equal to, this ratio is equal to r by s. You got it? See, the ratio between these two resistors will be equal to the ratio between these two resistors. So if these ratios are being equal, p by q is equal to r by s, I would say that this bridge, this Wheatstone bridge, is being balanced. So this is called as balanced Wheatstone's bridge, right? This is the expression, and this is very important. You should understand. Okay, and this derivation is very important. They might ask you in your board examinations, right? This is all about it. Okay, so thank you students for watching this. I would request you all to subscribe my channel, so that if you subscribe, you can get more informative videos on various topics which I cover day to day. Thank you.